we are primarily an Indiana football show. So we're going to talk Hoosiers, baby. Curt Cignetti was on Hoosiers Connect this week or last week. Sat down with another interview. Anytime that man opens his mouth to speak, obviously I'm going to be listening. And so if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. He kind of previews what's been going on and we'll look forward to spring ball, which started this past weekend. Practice 2 was today. But one of the more interesting things that came out of, I don't know if it was that interview or if it was his first press conference, but he said that the team looked a lot cleaner than it did going into spring ball last year. And it wasn't like he
makes
wasn't
a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah, he wasn't saying much in terms of like specifics, but it was like an old coach's way of like, I like what I'm seeing so far. Because obviously, if he was upset with the way things were going, it'd be like there's some things we need to clean up, all this good stuff. But it was like tongue in cheek, like no, the reports have been good.
Yeah, I was watching Mendoza throw the ball a little bit. Yeah, he looks a lot better than I was expecting. And for those, I was already pretty high on him. So I don't. Yeah, he should.
Were you talking about the pro day clips that came out? Because
I saw some spring day when they were first day in the stadium. He was throwing some deep balls right in front of Cignetti.
The ball absolutely explodes out of his hand. Yeah. It's if you haven't caught his Hoosiers Connect interview either, or the interview he did with the Hoosier Hysterics, like obviously go check those 2 out. But like watching the ball come out of Mendoza's hand, like you can go watch those pro day throws. You can go watch a couple of the videos from the first days of practice. Like, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but him and Omar Cooper connected on a deep ball past D'Angelo Pons today. And obviously they're not in pads, so you can't get physical. But like, I don't think Pons was beat in practice last year. And so it kind of goes to show you, like, A, the aggressiveness, and B, it's just like, yeah, the dude throws a great football.
Yeah, whenever you have starters coming back, you're expecting, them to level up year after year. So, you should expect, Cooper and Surratt were already all conference level players. Pons, Fisher, and Kamara obviously were all Americans. And they're all just going to take that next step. And Mendoza's going into his junior year. He's already been a proven starter for his entire college career thus far. And it's just another year where these guys just get 1 year better. And that's kind of the evolution of, how things kind of go, right? All the way throughout the league. They talk about aging, right? And obviously that's a factor in terms of your inhibiting your development, but really as a player, like as an intellectual, whether any sport, you're really, your mind gets sharper, the game better, and everything you're able to act on things faster regardless of where your physical capabilities are. And that's like the hallmark of Cignetti teams. Like they play fast because they know exactly what they're doing and they have another year. The year 2 jump, like it's very real. And this team already went to the playoff. Expect another year 2 jump. Like, what does that look like? Does that look like a Big Ten championship? Does it look like just a college football playoff win? Who knows? Does it look like a national championship? I don't know. That's why we have this show, right?
Yeah, because we're going to talk about it. We're going to speculate about it. Do you have the pro day stats in front of you, right? Because I do want to get to those. But real quickly, just to kind of put a bow on CJ West, who we did talk about last week in his combine performance, he was named to the NFL Combine's all-defensive team. So, like, we weren't just blowing smoke. It wasn't just Hoosier fans, like, talking whatever. It's like, no, like, this dude showed out at the Combine. And so, like, yeah, when you're talking about guys like that who were in the system year 1 and spent 9 months in Indiana and went from Kent State to being talked about as a day 2 draft pick. Now you have guys like you said, like Fisher, like Pons, like Surratt, like Cooper, who are now, and those guys have even been in the system longer, but you have those guys who are going into year 2 of the system, full off season, full like time with Derek Owens and the strength, like and conditioning staff. And it's like, yeah, that year 2 jump is really real. And like, we're going to talk about these pro day numbers. Like they lost a lot of really legit players, and like the way that they're talking about the current roster, they're not super worried about replacing them, which is really exciting.
I think that's something, it's important to know. Like, obviously this team's going to have draft picks that come out, and obviously that's a lot of talent lost that will need to be replaced. Like, it's not easy to replace CJ West's and Curtis Rourke's, even though, maybe they can collectively through, a transfer portal, maybe. But, those guys are going to be hard to replace. Your Keyshawn Williamses, your Jalen Walkers that are now looking to maybe even get drafted as well after their pro days. Those are the two probably big standout. And Jalen Walker and Keyshawn Williams. Who'd I miss?
Miles Price had a meeting with the Commanders as well.
Really good day. No real surprises there, but yeah, it's with a really strong transfer portal class and a much larger bulk of the roster being under a Cignetti season than last year. It's only going to go up. 3 All-Americans coming back. But yeah, you ready to go into the pro day?
Yeah, because I specifically want to talk about Jalen Walker because it was head-scratching not only to us, but to a lot of people who have been paying attention to this Indiana team that he wasn't a combine invite given the pure speed he was able to put on tape. And dude runs 22 miles an hour. So apparently he ran a 4.38 40, which is absolutely insane at 6'2", 220.
Yeah, I thought he had a good enough production that based on his projected measurables, he would just get an invite just so they can get them, get accurate numbers on him.
Literally watch him run.
How much does he weigh going 4.4? That's the type of stuff they need to, know. And you can only, pro day numbers are, iffier than, your combine numbers. So it is what it is. I mean, it's hard to get a combine. Are you saying
there's home cooking when it comes to pro day numbers?
No, that's not what I'm insinuating. No way those 40 times are unofficial. But didn't Price run like a 4.4? It was really hard to track down like all the numbers, Geezer. I'll be honest. It was really hard. But some standouts: Mangum Farrar put up 31 reps on the bench.
Yeah, I think Derek McCormick put up like 7. Like he put up like 20 reps or something like that. Like he went over a bunch of the receivers as a place kicker.
Kickoff guy.
Yeah, that was really impressive. He also responded to I think Jamie Jordan made a comment about it or something on Twitter like I can't believe a kicker like put this up or whatever, and he was like, kickers are people too or something like that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and then Keyshawn Williams 39 inches in the vert. It's really good. And then Miles Price put up a 4.44, I believe. 4.44. And that got him a conversation with a couple teams. I saw Commanders, 49ers. Anyone else I'm missing? So
I know we were tagged. The podcast account was tagged in a 49ers, not a 49ers, like a Commanders meeting. So if you saw 49ers too, like that would be really cool. Because I mean, like we saw, the dude can play. He's tough. He returns punts. Like he's willing to play special teams. That's the thing also with a lot of these, like Indiana, like Jalen Walker is more than willing to play special teams. Like the Indiana starting defense was playing special teams the entire year.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Jalen Walker makes a roster. I'm just going to go.
Anybody who loves football that much and is willing to throw his body around like that and at the speeds he does it deserves to be on a roster at the very least.
I'm not going to speak for Price or Williams, but I'm very confident in Jalen Walker, and that's that. And I think West and Rourke are basically locks. I don't think they really participated in pro day all that much.
Well, Rourke literally had ACL surgery. December?
West was at the 20th? Combine a week ago, so it didn't really make sense for him to like do all this stuff again.
No, because if he goes out there and he runs like 5 flat or 5.05, then everybody starts talking about how it's like no, he did everything he needed to do. You pack it up and you see everybody on draft night.
Yeah, I think they just did some interviews and just kind of went their separate ways. But yeah, I'm excited to see which Hoosiers get drafted. I think it's important to note, like, with the lack of potential guys getting drafted, it's honestly a positive. The year before Washington went to the national title game, I think they won 10 or 11 games, and they had 0 draft picks that year. And guess what? they go all the way to the playoff and have a ton more draft picks the next year. Because a lot of their guys came back, and that's the situation that Indiana kind of finds themselves in. A lot of their best players from the team last year came back. And like we talked receiver, we talked the 3 levels of the defense, like all those star players from that group. And arguably our best O-lineman is back.
Well, I think that's like the biggest thing about NIL that people kind of misconstrue is that, and I was kind of like chewing around this week, is like I think we're almost done seeing the type of team that like Ohio State was this year, like Michigan was the year before, where it's just like these teams are loaded with seniors because of the COVID rules, and then you can, because of NIL, turn around and pay these guys who are going to get drafted in the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, be undrafted free agents. You can pay them equivalent or sometimes even better to stay in school. And that's how you end up with these like 4th and 5th year senior heavy rosters. And you're essentially just like, you have a team of grown men playing football. And so when you look at Indiana, specifically to somebody like Mikal Kamara, who led the nation in pressures 5 years ago, if Indiana had this season, there's no question that kid's going to the draft. But when you have NIL and the ability to pay him, I don't know what they're paying him, and I doubt we're going to find out what that figure is, but it was good enough to keep him at school. And so the fact that they can like do that, and the fact that, like you said, like they're bringing back a lot of experience. So it's not just like, oh my God, we're replacing a sick year with a bunch of freshmen. It's like, no, they have some key losses, but like a lot of the bulk of the roster is still there.
Yeah, you can fill a full starting roster with guys that got significant playing time last year, whether that be on special teams or, whether they're getting backup reps on defense. They have enough coming back to where they filled it all with the portal again, and the depth is even better because all of Cignetti guys that have come in the last 2 years through freshman classes are now filling in that 3-4 deep, and that's basically the bulk of the youth is all Cignetti guys. So this is truly, the year 2 jump. It's real. Like, he brought in some really talented freshmen that are probably, making pushes for some PT. So it's only going to push the other guys. And yeah, the program, the roster, it's all very, very healthy despite everyone leaving.
Yeah, and this is
despite a big bulk of people leaving. And it's kind of like, I think it's important to know, like, with this offseason, it's a very unique offseason because it's the last year where the COVID rule, where the COVID year doesn't count in terms of your eligibility, kind of goes into effect. All those 5th-year guys that were freshmen in the 2020 in the COVID year that didn't count, they've all run out of eligibility. So the bulk of rosters now, you saw the mass exodus at Indiana in terms of just numbers on the roster. Like, that was not, Indiana is not the only school going through that in the country right now. You see it at Ohio State. You see it at a lot of other places, to where they're going to have to, have a lot of guys that haven't stepped up before step up. And Indiana's in a much better spot than a lot of these teams. And just in terms of how they've, constructed the roster through the portal over the years. Very exciting.